Debbie? First of all, we have a field trip to Baker Hughes Western Hemisphere Training Center on March 8th from 3 o'clock to 6 p.m. All the details are located on our website, so please attend this event. Okay. A webinar will be presented on April the 21st from 12 to 1. Our second webinar of the year is called The Power of Inductive Learning, and Austin Welch will be presenting that webinar to us. We want to invite all of you to join the webinar. Also, there'll be a workshop on April the 26th from 9 to 4 on Create Interactive Video with Articulate. Storyline 2 will be hosted by Tom Kuhlman. So please, if you're available on that day or that time, please join and find out some new things. I'm sure it's going to be exciting. Right, I want to introduce our panelists today. We have great speakers in store for you. We have Debbie Richards, Adam Malota, Duncan Welder, and Monica Savage, who will be sharing with us about TechKnowledge 2016. Thank you all for joining, and Debbie.
Debbie, I think your microphone's muted if you want to unmute.
Sorry, I was just talking away. Okay. I want to just talk about a little bit about the conference in general, just to let you know about what it was like to attend it. So there were a lot of us that attended the conference. There were about 1,500 people from all over the country. We had over 150 sessions that were covered. It was 2.5 days of conference, and it was absolutely amazing. There were a lot of things to attend, including sessions and also the trade shows. So you see me there rocking out with the e-learning brothers. There's Duncan at his booth, and also Eric at his booth for Obsidian. So we're going to talk a little bit more about those things in detail here in a minute. These are some of the tracks that were covered at the conference. So a wide variety of topics and a lot of things that are really hot right now for technology-based learning. So you can see that there was a track still on e-learning design and development, on platforms and tools, on management and implementation, and virtual classrooms. But some of the really hot topics centered around serious games and simulations, mobile, and social. So there was a lot to choose from, and I'll tell you frankly, as a participant, it was really hard to decide what sessions to attend. So I was really glad to see that ATD posted a lot of the presentations and information out on their website where we could go back and look at it. We also had some amazing keynote speakers. I got to attend the session with David Rose and Brian Wong, and I'm going to talk about my experiences in those sessions later. I wasn't able to attend Kate's session, but it's always nice to hear from people who are sharing some interesting things and interesting ideas for all of us in general. And then I wanted to share that there's a website that you can go to that has a lot of the curated information from the conference, and that's David Kelly's website. And not only does he share the information about the TechKnowledge conference, but if you go out there, you'll find curated information from a lot of learning conferences. But out here on this website, you'll be able to find the conference website and then some specific presentations and videos from some of the presentations and things that occurred at the conference. So it's kind of like being there and just peeking in and being able to see some of the high points of the conference. And I'm going to send out this link to everybody after the webinar, so you'll be able to take a look at this stuff as well. So we are all going to share our experiences and talk a little bit about what we learned and some of the things that that made an impact on us at the conference. And so to start off, Adam is going to talk about his experiences. So Adam, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Debbie. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Adam Malota, and I'm a Senior Manager for Learning Technologies at Astellas Pharma US. We're a mid-tier pharmaceutical company with global category leadership in urology, oncology, and transplantation. So enough of the elevator speech. To me, the TechKnowledge conference was really memorable because of the diversity of ideas. In between the sessions, I gained a lot of practical knowledge just speaking with those from different industries to see what is and what is not working in the world of learning technology. And I also really like the diversity of topics discussed, as Debbie mentioned. And the topics were ranging from in the home and wearable technologies to real-world application-based systems that are available right now. There were a lot of workshops to choose from, and some of the ones that I attended were on measurement and evaluation. There were some on e-learning development, gaming elements, and a whole lot of other topics. In other words, there was just a lot of variety to choose from, but the one common thread that seemed to resonate through all the workshops was a focus on ways to incorporate technology in order to engage the learner and encourage the behavioral change. So behavioral change was a major theme in this conference. And hey, it was Vegas. I got some knowledge from my brain, and I got some coin in my pocket from the slot machine, so what more can you ask for? I guess normally if we were on mute, this is where you would chuckle, but moving right along. Today I want to focus on a hot topic at the conference and something that I think you can apply right now, and that's bite-sized learning and reinforcement. Now this was a major theme at the meeting, the question being, are our students retaining what they learn and what we deliver? It's a really simple but important question. There was a late 19th century German psychologist, his name was Hermann Ebbinghaus, and he was a pioneer in the study of memory, and he's known for this curve you see on the screen called the forgetting curve. And I also put a little selfie of him on there on the bottom. Quite a handsome chap, wouldn't you agree? He actually demonstrated that without putting learning into practice and providing support and access to knowledge, that we forget roughly half of what we learn within an hour of learning it. And the retention actually drops to about a third after one day. And by about a month, we only retain about 20% or 1/5 of what we learn. So what I took away is that it's really critical that if we're going to take the time to build training workshops and sessions, then we ought to build some type of reinforcement plan in order to maximize that investment. Reinforcing with bite-sized pieces of knowledge that follow training sessions, they called them boosters. Now these bite-sized pieces, you'll want to use these because people learn best in short, impactful moments. Think of a time that you've gone onto YouTube and maybe you've watched a 2 to 3 minute snackable video. That's what we're talking about, is little 2 to 3 minute snackable pieces of content that you release over a given period of time, reinforcing key points from the original training event. So there's a lot of ways to facilitate this, a lot of technologies ranging from low-tech to things that are a little bit more highly sophisticated software programs. So Debbie, can you go to the next slide? This next slide is, go one more. This next slide that we're going to look at shows two platforms. Is that able to, there we go. Okay, so there were two platforms that were at the meeting. Well, actually, MindMarker was at the meeting. Cameo is one that I've used in the past. So MindMarker is a really robust company that provides a full range of consulting services as well as software platforms that use apps and web-based delivery to reinforce and streamline kind of the total student experience in reinforcement. Now there's another option that I've got on the screen. Now they weren't at ATD, but it's a little bit easier on the pocketbook. It's called Cameo. It's from the Yukon Group. And they're also a web-based software option that leverages your existing email systems to host training reinforcement. Now both systems, both of these, will facilitate your reinforcement efforts while providing back-end analytics and reporting. They'll help you monitor the performance, and they'll also help you look at response rates. The difference is just how much help and support that you really need balanced against your allocated budget. But I've used them both, and they're both very effective systems. Now you might be thinking, well, how can I implement this bite-sized learning and reinforcement training at my company? And I really think the answer is modeling it yourself. This was actually emphasized at a workshop that I attended at ATD called Why Smart People Resist Technology. So how can you do this? Well, first, what I did was, as an example to my local team, I developed a 1-hour presentation. And now, it was over lunch, of course, to maximize attendance because we had to incorporate some food. But for my commercial learning and development team, I talked about the various technologies that I learned at ATD TechKnowledge and how we could be leveraging them better for a more comprehensive learning experience. And this was a broad range of technologies. But then what I did was every week, and I mean every week like clockwork, I released a 1 to 2 minute video that I built in Adobe Voice, and I built that on my iPhone, and I sent that to my internal team. And with each video, it was showcasing one of those technologies from the 1-hour training session. I sent this email along with the challenge to the team for them to think about their local learning dilemmas and consider how this week's technology, the one that I was sending out, might solve their problem. So this was the 4th week that I've done this. And last week I highlighted simulations, which was talked about at ATD TechKnowledge. And the team is going to move forward. One of the silos is going to move forward with plans to use simulations to upskill new to pharma industry reps on the basics of pharmacology. It's going to replace a 130-page module that, quite frankly, I'm not sure that they were even reading those modules anyway. So one of the trainers directors came up to me and said, you know, I'm really glad that you send out the reminders about the simulations. I know we talked about it over that lunch and learn, but I meant to talk with you more about it, but then life got in the way. So he said, you achieved 2 things. You helped us brainstorm a solution to create industry knowledge parity for our new hire class, but it also helped to demonstrate the value of reinforcement. So as I wrap up this part, I just want you to remember that little green fish that's on the slide right there. That fish represents that sometimes getting others to adopt new technologies and innovative approaches does not have to be piloted in conjunction with some elaborate training initiative. Sometimes just swimming in a different direction, just going in the fishbowl of the corporate training office, just going in a different direction, modeling concepts internally with your peers, that might just be the way and how it takes others to swim your way. So I think there's going to be a Q&A session at the end, but I'll turn it over now to Duncan with Risk, and he'll talk to you about what he learned. So Duncan, do you want to take it over?
Oh, sure thing. I can do that. I got it. My name is Duncan Welder and work with Risk. We're a learning management system provider here on the south side of Houston, down in the Clear Lake side of the world. I appreciate everybody's time this afternoon. Thought myself it was a very good show, and I promise that Adam and I did not coordinate before we got on here, even though a lot of the points that I wanted to bring up and chat about really fall very, very much in line with that same performance support and bite-sized nuggets of learning for reinforcement there. So we can go ahead and move forward to a more meaty bite here. One of the things that ATD did this year at the conference was they had a disruptive technology track or a room where he came in and talked about different things that are changing the industry, and some of these items like mobile, it's not like it's new, it's not something that we haven't been talking about for a number of years, but the focus has certainly shifted in my mind. For a long time, we talked about mobile learning, and there was the thought that we may be parsing existing training content into more friendly screen resolutions and things to deliver on tablets and phones. And I really don't feel like that's the case anymore. It's looking at the fact that you have a device that's going to be with a person that has capabilities like GPS, that has capabilities like email, has capabilities like text, and how do we use that for performance support? Also recognizing that the idea of having company-controlled devices versus bring your own device kind of concepts is really at the point of everyone's going to have their own device. There's just very few places I can see where companies can provide that kind of infrastructure. So that changes what we do and what we have to be able to deliver out to students in a performance support method or a mobile learning process, because we're going to have people that are iPhone users, people that are Android users, whatever else is the next newest technology coming down the line, and how does that impact us? And one of the other things, especially from someone who kind of lives on the learning management side, I see is that instead of a big focus on delivery of content, delivery of training, there's this also a movement of taking a subset of learning functions where it makes sense and putting it in more of a mobile world. So it may not be that I'm delivering content online, I may deliver those small bite-sized pieces of learning to someone through a text message, but I also want the ability, maybe as a mobile application, to email an instructor when needed, or those kind of things that really make sense on a mobile device. XAPI was a big topic there, and for those of you not familiar, the Experience API is just a standard from the ADL, the guys that put out SCORM, that lets you write learning experiences to a learning record store, and it's something that doesn't necessarily have to happen from a traditional learning management system kind of standpoint. Over the course of this last year, between the last TechKnowledge and this TechKnowledge, what I've seen there is a real shift from use cases. We could do this. These are things that we're capable of with this technology, to more case studies where people are going in and starting to leverage some of this data, which leads into that Internet of Things item just below that. And there, if you're not familiar, the concept, Internet of Things, are devices that are connected to the Internet, some kind of hardware like a Nest thermostat, or if you have the ability to turn your lights on and off, or your security system from your cell phone. These are the kind of things we're talking about there, and specifically their use in learning. So a couple discussions about museums that will give students or children badges that as they go to different exhibits, they can track what exhibit the person went to, how long they were there, really helping schools justify the need for, or the expense of going through those kind of field trips, providing additional training. One of the examples that came up was using light meters inside freezers to identify if freezers in these food service and commercial applications are being left open too long, and then being able to provide real-time feedback to students. I keep wishing I had the same thing, myself as I'm teaching a 15-year-old to drive. It'd be nice to have a scorecard that I could print out from all the different systems inside the car, because I don't really know the true impact of braking too fast or accelerating too fast, other than they're bad. But with some minor internet-connected sensors, these would be easy pieces of information to get, and I think we'll continue to see that. In the past, you might have said that you can do anything with e-learning except make the coffee, and now you can actually have e-learning that does make the coffee. And then that leads to this whole discussion of big data analysis and what do you do with it if I can track anything in the world. What is valuable in making the right decisions there? One of the good examples that I saw was using GitHub, where people can post questions and other people can respond and close those items and they get reopened if it hasn't been a resolution, and seeing really who are the contributors that are closing cases, how many are being reopened, and using that to identify some people inside the organization that have expertise in specific areas. And I should have included a bullet item for it here, but one of the things that then led into is who owns that data, and I think there are going to be more discussions, especially with the EU's dissolution of the Safe Harbor Act, as to who owns my learning data, who owns my performance data. Is it me as the learner? Is it the organization? Is there some way that there's a split that's going to come up there? The next slide really just plays on to more of these same items. One of the things that all of these interconnected pieces allow is a focus of a much more ecosystem-driven training environment. So we're not going out to a training event. So if we move past that very didactic learning experience, and in some ways returning to what I think of almost as a more apprentice-focused training environment, where we recognize that, you've heard the 70-20-10 kind of concept, where only 10% of learning happens through formal learning events, but we haven't been able to track those experiential things. Now you really can, and you can help design more of a learning ecosystem that guides someone through their development, providing just-in-time tools, like Adam had mentioned there, being able to track what resources people are using. And here I'm not even talking about training specifically, but instrumenting operating procedures, instrumenting other resources, so that you can track every time someone uses those, what pages are being read, what pages are being skipped. Because I came across this concept of scrap learning. It's the first time we've really been able to look at a deep level, what are the things that are not being used from a learning perspective that we can cut out and trim some of that scrap learning, along with, I can mention more of those predictive analytics. What happens? What's my job performance? What's my performance that may need some kind of intervention that may or may not be a full training course or class, but something that's more of a honed-in adaptive thing based on what I've been able to watch experts do and how they perform compared to my own performance, and analyze that information very quickly. So I guess the summary on my next slide there is really, I see a big drive towards performance support over identifying things specifically as training, and being able to look at those tools really across the entire ecosystem, what needs to be training, what can be mentoring, what can be job aids, what can be those small feedback things, much more of the micro coaching and micro learning, again, bite-sized pieces like Adam was mentioning there, and how do we deliver those, and especially in light of things like technology with, say, mobile environments where my phone knows where I physically am in the world all the time, and we leverage that. If I'm standing in a new city and I need to find a sushi restaurant, right? I can go onto Yelp and it will tell me whatever's closest and give me reviews. How does that work in businesses and with learning, and how are we going to leverage those kind of things, and what are going to be the limits of information that gets shared back and forth, because as we gather that information, build things like more adaptive learning paths based on real performance, it means we're tracking more and more of that performance data, and I think that's going to be an interesting area to watch over the near term. Is one of my favorite commentators says, watch this space. So as you keep going through the next years here in training, I think learning ownership and adaptive learning and that performance support system is really a space to watch. So with that, I certainly appreciate it, and I think now we move over to Monica.
Monica, I think you're muted. If you can unmute your, there you go.
I am unmuted now. Yes, sorry about that. So hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. First of all, I want to apologize if I sound a little strange on top of my accent. I'm getting over a cold, so hopefully that won't be too bad. I'm Monica Savage. I'm the president of Obsidian Learning. We are a custom learning and development firm here in Houston, and we've been in business for about 18 years now. We service a variety of industries, but we love developing training for highly technical industries like the oil and gas. You can follow us on Twitter if you'd like, and visit our site. We have some cool stuff there. If you want to move to the next slide, I'll start by talking a little bit about the main, the first, I guess, keynote of the session, of the conference, and the Internet of Things. I know Duncan mentioned a little bit of this new concept. I'm not sure how new it is, but it is the hottest topic, or one of the hottest topics. And it's a shift that's basically predicted to be, to have as big of an impact as the internet itself. It's the idea of all objects and things that surround us being connected, and through them getting to know our wishes, our likes and dislikes, and learning about ourselves. So what I really enjoyed there was the way the message was related to businesses in general, not just learning, but if you have or if you're involved in a business that makes a product, or manufacturing, or supply, chain management, environmental, transportation, retail, pretty much anything, David predicts that the sectors will be impacted. And since this industry surrounds us, obviously our learning will be impacted. Will be easier to learn, hopefully, but there is also a concern there of, as Duncan mentioned, what are we going to do and how are we going to manage the data that we are going to be inundated with. So interesting challenges ahead. If we want to move to the next one, to the next slide. The way I kind of look at conferences, because we develop training as, what's not necessarily new, but what's moving. What is considered to be one of the trends, where can we focus on? And learning videos is something, Adam talked a bit about this in terms of bite-sized learning, but they're becoming more and more popular. It's not a surprise. We all know that YouTube is extremely popular, and that's the first place we go whenever we try to learn something new or do a task, perform a task. But I think that we should expect seeing the learning videos replacing traditional learning deliverables more and more. It's tied obviously with mobile learning and the discussion about blended learning, but learning videos are not difficult to produce anymore. And even with existing tools that are not traditionally video editing tools like Storyline, you can still develop very compelling short learning videos. I sent some, put out some links out there. We don't need to click on them now, but you can take a look at them. I think they're very informative. Microlearning, again, both Adam and Duncan mentioned the concept. It's not a new concept, but in the day that we live in, everybody's incredibly busy. We cannot really spend the time with traditional classroom for everything. It still has its place, but the more bite-sized and program that rather than a one long deliverable we can develop, the better. In the same line, infographics are everywhere, and we obviously know that a picture is really worth a lot of words. One thing that I want to caution there is that it needs to be done well. So it's not something that we just throw together. It's not necessarily required that you have brilliantly looking graphics, but the thought and the design of the infographic is incredibly important. One of the things that I just saw on Twitter before I joined the webinar was ATD Research giving us a sneak peek at the infographic that they will use for their new report, building a culture of learning. So if you haven't followed at ATD Research, I find it very interesting and useful, so you may want to look them up. Mobile learning, as we discussed, it's definitely here to stay. We use phones and tablets and all sorts of devices all the time, and we are now able to use them at work a whole lot more. For folks that are interested in some specifics on how to design and launch a mobile app, I found Nick Floro's presentation very useful. From my perspective, from a more of a learning strategy perspective, the focus though needs to be on the design and the learning strategy. Basically, how do we incorporate the mobile learning? Yes, it's there. Just because it's there doesn't mean that we have to go in and convert all of our existing training to mobile courses. I don't know too many people that would like to watch a our webinar or CBT on a phone, but mobile learning can be useful if designed right. So it's been related a lot with performance support, and that's great. But is that all? Can we use it for certain pieces of a program? Micro-learning and videos obviously fit well in that category. What else can we do? I'm personally very interested in hearing some actual examples of how folks use mobile learning in their learning strategy. This is something that we are currently working on with several of our clients, so hot topic there. And then blended and distributed learning. Obviously, we are, beyond just e-learning and just instructor-led training. None of the traditional deliverables are going away, but combining them into a longer, more in-depth, and chunked up program, like a blended or distributed learning program, is really where everybody's focus is and should be. Recently, we've published a white paper on distributed learning models, so it's there if you'd like to take a look. Also, Cami Bean has a really good presentation on evolving beyond the e-learning trends, which is nice. And we hosted actually a chat on Twitter the other day with the topic of blended learning. It was interesting, and I was very happy to hear folks thinking of blended learning a little bit different than before. It's been traditionally, it's been my experience, that traditionally we say blended learning and we understand one web-based training and one instructor-led training. And blended learning is so much more than that. Distributed learning obviously incorporates a lot of different experiences and technology, and it focuses a lot on what people can do to enhance the learning experience, and incorporates everything from community of practice to forums and project work to not just pre and post work, but continuous learning through a lot of deliverables. Those were the main takes on what's hot in learning, and especially in corporate learning, that I took away. I did love the fact that for the first time we had the disruption, the disrupt room, which was it's an interesting concept, and it's fun, but also very important to think from a concept of trying to bring it into the workplace. Problems can be solved so much more and better through collaboration, I believe. So this style of team building and disruption is important in the workplace as well. We'll go from here to Debbie, I believe.
Yes, thanks, Monica. And before I begin, I'd just like to thank Monica, Adam, and Duncan for their insights. I found them very interesting, and it's nice to see other people's perspectives as to what they see with when they go to a conference. So I'm Debbie Richards. I am the president of Creative Interactive Ideas. I'm also a past president of ATD Houston, and I am a national advisor for chapters working with ATD chapters in Michigan and Ohio. And this year I also had the honor of being selected as one of the top 10 corporate e-learning movers and shakers in North America I was rated number 5 and then rated number 10 in the world. So I was thrilled to get that designation. So I'm going to share my insights and things that I learned from attending the TechKnowledge conference. And the first thing is I actually got to present at the conference. And so for me, day one was a little bit filled with some anxiety because I was preparing for my presentation. I spoke at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and my session was on mobile learning project management. And I feel like this is really important because just because you're experienced in managing an e-learning project doesn't necessarily mean that you're ready to manage a mobile learning project. There's a lot of differences, and there's landmines that you need to avoid. So in my presentation, I presented a case study, and we looked at developing a mobile learning project. I talked about what to do and what not to do, and I also provided a template and a sample mobile learning project management plan all the way from front-end analysis to implementation, deployment, and project evaluation. And I felt like the session went well. We had a nice turnout for it, and that was a very interesting experience to be able to present at the conference. So like everybody else, I was blown away by David Rose and his keynote speech on the Internet of Things. And as you can see, I tweeted out I purchased 2 books and 3 things from Amazon. And I did that, believe it or not, during his presentation because I got so excited. The first thing I bought, of course, was his book on enchanted objects. And the book is really interesting. It's out on Kindle and in hardback. And he talks about all different kinds of objects that we'll be using, and some of them we already use, the things that are in our cars, that are in our wallets, our smartwatches, and other things, and how they will help us. Some of them are kind of scary. Some of them, frankly, may be a little useless. You may find them amusing, but it's an interesting book. I also bought a book called The Filter Bubble, and this was talking about how the web is personalized and how it's changing the way we read and how we think. And I've just started into that book, and it also is very, very interesting. So I bought 3 things from Amazon. The first was the narrative clip. And what this is a camera that you can clip on your clothes, and it basically takes a picture every few seconds, and it's like getting a flip book of your day. And I made the mistake of being too excited and buying it right off of Amazon, and then afterwards when I got it, I found out that it was the 1st generation tool, and what I really wanted was the 2nd generation. So I sent it back, and I'm waiting for the 2nd generation, and I'm hoping to use that at our upcoming technology conference to just to capture the moments from the day. And then I bought a LifeScribe Enchanted pen, and it's a technology-based pen that captures what you're writing and transcribes it. And I find that to be very useful because sometimes I will write things because it helps me remember them. And to be able to have that transcribed in an electronic format is great. And then the last thing I bought was, it's kind of funny. I haven't used it yet, but I just got it because I thought it was a hoot. And it was a thing called the Happy Fork. And what it's supposed to do is discourage you from eating too quickly. And I haven't tried it yet. And when I do try it, it's probably going to be by myself and not out in a public area because I'm not quite sure what it's going to do. But it's sitting on my shelf waiting to be tried. So the next thing I want to talk about was that, there's lots of sessions. And I went to this one session, and I was just blown away. And I like looking at new tools and trying to come up with things that we'll be able to use from technologies. And this was a joint presentation between Steve Lee, who is with Allen Interaction, and Lisa Pastor, who is with Sutter Health University. And they showed an application that they did using Zebra's Apps, which is an online e-learning development tool. And what Sutter Health wanted to do was it was looking with, it didn't like the way that traditional training approaches were tracking performance and tracking authoring. So they wanted to take advantage of existing training videos, and they wanted to have more interactivity, and then they also wanted to then report the data, item data, via XAPI. So they showed this, and this is just a screen capture I took of all the data that they were collecting via XAPI and through this video, and I was just blown away. And so I am out now investigating zebra zaps and looking at this data, and then I want to see, once you build a piece like this, what actually can you capture via XAPI, and then how is that reported back in the learning management system. And I'll probably get with Duncan and the team at Risk so that we can actually see what information gets captured and how useful that information is, because just because you can capture a lot of data doesn't mean that it's the kind of thing that's going to be useful for you. So I just thought that what Sutter Health was doing was very interesting, and it's causing me to take another look at zebra zaps. Then the next session that I really enjoyed and I thought was good and highly informative was a session called Gaining Leadership Buy-in for E-Learning or Mobile Learning Initiatives. And the gentleman who delivered this, AJ, is an accountant, and then he's also a training and development professional based out of Canada. And he has written a book called The Trainer's Balance Scorecard, a complete resource for linking learning and growth in organizational strategy. And then he also wrote a book called Building Business Acumen for Trainers. And what I found interesting was that he really talks about how to talk with business units about e-learning, and also how to build a financial structure to support projects, and how to get senior management buy-in. And talking to them in the language that they understand, not necessarily the language that we understand. Because he said that folks in business units, in financial areas, and learning departments speak two different languages. And if you want to have their buy-in, you need to speak their language, and you need to design your plan or whatever you present to them in their language and in the manner that they will understand in order to get their buy-in. So I'd highly recommend, getting AJ's books, and if you get a chance to go to another conference and hear him, I think the information that he presented is so valuable, and it's going to make a difference, especially today when budgets are being cut and when people are really having to justify not only the decisions and the things that they're trying to plan, but just their existence. So I felt like everything he had to offer was fantastic. Then the last thing that I wanted to share with you was a session that I just found magical. And since attending this session, I've gone back and looked at more of what this young man is doing. But this was Brian Wong, and he is an entrepreneur, a young guy, and he founded in 2010 a company called Tip. It's a mobile app rewards platform that lets brands and companies give real-world rewards for in-game achievements. And the thing, when he talked about what he was doing, and he talked about how they were proceeding and how his company was working with technology and everything, it was just magical. He showed a couple of videos, and I was blown away because as he was showing the videos, he sat down on the floor of the stage and looked up and watched the video with us, and it was just entertaining. And it made me stop and think a little bit about my own personal and professional goals and what I'm doing and how I should focus my energies. Because I think that when you do that, when you think about what your core skills set out is and how you can help our industry, that you can really make a difference. And so where he says we can find the person and engage with them when they're in an emotional frame of mind, and if you can be there in that moment, something magical can happen. And I know that there's been times that I have been in a training class or working with the team that it just seems like there's just this magical experience, and it's absolutely wonderful. And I really want to be able to have those moments and have those again. And so I just felt like this was the perfect end to the conference. Brian was the last speaker of the last day, and he left me ending the conference just feeling really happy and excited about the industry and excited about what we're doing. And you know, if you get a chance to go out and Google him and watch some of his presentations that are out there on the internet, I would do that, because what he's doing is just going to be game-changing, and he's really going to make a difference. So, so that's all I had as far as from TechKnowledge and what I learned. And what I wanted to do before we close up is just share some things that are going to be happening from a technology stand with ATD Houston. And the first thing is I am so excited that we are going to have Tom Coleman here to spend a day with us, where we're going to work and have a workshop on creating interactive video with Articulate Storyline. So it's a chance to spend time with the guys from Articulate and really learn about how we can utilize their tool to create interesting and engaging learning. So if you can sign up for this, I'd highly recommend it. And you can sign up for both the workshop and for our conference that will be the next day, and you'll get a discounted price. And we have that registration open on our website now. And then I want to announce that along with the food bank and Obsidian, we are going to be doing a contest. And so the challenge for the food bank is they need help with developing some training. And so we're going to open up a contest where we'll have people create modules. We're going to give them the Obsidian Black tool to use to create that module, a template, and then we'll have specific content. And then we'll judge those content, the modules that are created, and the judges won't know who the contestants are, but we will acknowledge everybody and we'll announce the winners at the ATD Technology Conference on April 27th. And if you're interested in participating, you're going to have to register and attend the conference, but we'll give you a really discounted rate because you're going to be also doing some work. So we'll have some more information on this coming up soon, and I hope you guys will take advantage of this, not only to create something interesting and engaging for your portfolio, but to help the Houston Food Bank and help them with training their employees. So I said that the technology conference is going to be on April the 27th. It's going to be a full day of interesting learning, and we are happy to have Tom Coleman come back as our keynote speaker for the morning. And then we're going to also have Monica Cornetti, who's going to do a session in the afternoon on gamification, and we'll have Andrew Scolelli, who is a co-founder of eLearning Brothers, speak to us as well. And we'll have this at the new Microsoft Technology Center, which is located at the Beltway and I-10. We have some other exciting things planned for the day. It's going to be a full day of learning and networking and engaging in technology, and we hope that everybody will have a chance to come out and join us and really enjoy the day and enjoy what we're doing in Houston as far as technology. So, so that is everything that I had to share. Ken, I think we've got a few minutes if we want to open up and see if anybody has any questions or any other comments. And also maybe some comments from the panel.
And obviously anybody from the panel can jump in, and if anybody, any of the attendees would like to share anything, just raise your hand and we can unmute you, or you could put any comments or questions in the question chat box.
I did forgot to mention that Monica will be participating in our technology day, and we're also going to have Art from Duncan's company participating as well on a panel.
I'll just say that I'm incredibly honored to be with you guys, and I can't get over how cool Debbie is for being in the top 10 most influential people in the world. E-learning, isn't that cool? I mean, it's in the world. It's not even just in U.S., which is huge as it is, but it's in the world.
I didn't pay anybody to do that either.
I know. That's why it's so awesome. You do great work.
So you may be the only person in that position whose cell phone I have, cell phone number I have, right? You know. I don't know if any other top 10 anything.
Okay, Janet, you want to lead us out?
Sure. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming today, and I hope you got some great information about what happened at TechKnowledge. Probably sparked you to want to attend the next TechKnowledge that comes up for 2017. And don't forget to go to our website and get more information on all the upcoming events. We'll see you all soon, and thanks for attending. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.